half a more minute and then we start. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Bhaskar Mishra, and I am the technical lead for CRBS Legal Identity and Statelessness at UNICEF headquarters. And I will be your moderator for this webinar. Let me start with the housekeeping information. Simultaneous translation from Wolof to French and French to English, and vice versa is being provided. Please select the right channel at the bottom of the screen.
Hello.
We will have about 20 minutes for Q&A after both segments. Please leave your questions in the Q&A box. On behalf of ATD Fourth World, the African Child Policy Forum, Child Identity Protection, and UNICEF, we extend a warm welcome to our first webinar of the series, I Was Born, I Exist, and Add Me to the List. This critical series tackles one urgent goal: accelerating birth registration for children living in poverty, the hardest to reach. Today, we will focus on interconnectedness, from global regional commitments to national local realities, using Senegal as our case study. Why Senegal? Although its underone registration rate of 77% is higher than West Africa's average of 56%, about 123,000 newborns remain unregistered every year. Additionally, the disparity between the richest and poorest children is significant, indicating that a large proportion of those excluded are born into poverty. For sub-Saharan Africa, the numbers are staggering. Over 90 million children under the age of 5 in the region are not registered. For babies under 1, 21 million are unregistered, plus another 5 million registered but without a birth certificate. Think about that. Of 115,000 children, babies born every day, 57,000 go unregistered, and another 14,000 lack proof of birth registration. So today's key question: what is working, what's not, and what more does Senegal need to do in its CRBS system to ensure every child has a legal identity from birth, especially those living in poverty? To help us unpack this, we have a fantastic panel in segment 1. First up, Oumou Dione, an activist with ATD Fourth World. She will share powerful on-the-ground experiences and the real challenges communities still face in getting every child registered. Next, Ms. Suzanne, a member of the CRC committee and a seasoned expert. She will frame her intervention within the broader CRC perspective, stressing why universal birth registration and legal identity are non-negotiable rights, and touch on key CRC committee observations for Senegal. Then Mr. Aliou Ousmane Sall, Director General of Senegal's National Civil Status Agency. He will tell us about the concrete steps Senegal is taking to reach the hardest to reach families and boost registration. Welcome to all our speakers. Oumou Dione, the floor is yours. Let's hear those vital community perspectives. Over to you, Dione.
Assalamualaikum. maa ngi nuyu ñëpp kenn ku ne turam ak santam.
Hello, my name is Oumou Dione.
ma nekk membre mouvement ATREC.
I'm an activist with the AD Fourth World movement. I'm going to speak about what's going on, about all the problems we face registering children. And I'm going to talk for all the people that don't have the means to access paperwork in their country. Many of our children don't have any papers. Yes. So we want to raise awareness so that everybody can have access and must have a birth certificate. But here in our country, we're very tired. For something, this is something which is really a large issue, especially for poor people who don't have the means. And most of our children don't have any birth certificates or any documentation for that matter. To go to the central administration office, going to the administration office is very difficult for us because we don't have any favor. We are being marginalized. We lose time. We stay there for days and days. And every time we go there, we don't gain our rights. So it's not worthwhile sometimes, we think. You hope to get your documents, but then eventually you don't get anything. And if you don't have any money, if you are poor, you're being neglected. Those who have money are being helped and get their papers, but you get discouraged and you get home because you do everything you can for your children. You sacrifice yourself. And if you go to the administration office, they don't do the work needed to really assist them. We do everything we can to assist our children. They are the future for us. This is why the state should help us so that when we go to the administration office, we can have access easily and fast to our papers. We speak on behalf of all poor people. Because we are really tired. Very tired of getting our papers. It's so difficult. So we'd like that the administration office the administration office doesn't listen to poor people, doesn't help us to get our papers. It's so difficult. Thank you. Something we already said, so that poor people shouldn't be tied to get their papers. Because we face many issues. You gather all papers to go to the administration office and you go hands and forth and you don't gain your rights. And you see people getting there just after you. But they know people there and they take care of them. Since you are there since morning, you spend many hours and some people get there after you a little bit later and you spend a few hours there. We experience that every day. We are really marginalized. And sometimes too, we see people. I saw someone. It took her 2 years to get her birth certificate. And she was helped by ACPF World. And her child's registering birth certificate number was attributed to someone else. And I also saw a child having problems because of paperwork. He wanted to get and to work, but his papers were not the good one, and he had paid a lot of money to get them. But he explained that to the administration office. So the child must leave work because the administration office could not do anything to help them. There were also families. The papers of the children had been stolen, and he went to the court to try and get his papers, but couldn't get gain, and ATD helped him. So these difficulties we're facing every day, I'd like you to help us so that it'd be easier for us, we who are deprived. So how can you help us on this matter? Can you raise awareness? If you don't help us, it's going to be very difficult indeed. You know that papers are essential. Without any papers, we don't have any legal identity. And if you don't have the right papers, you can't have an ID. So paperwork, the number of the birth certificate is essential. And it is illegal that they be stolen or that they be given to someone else. That's what I want to say, because we're really tight. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dione, for these invaluable on-the-ground experiences. I will pick 3 points from your speech. How to enhance service delivery, recognizing that birth registration is a right, not a privilege. How can we provide services with a human touch? Second, how should we tackle the issue of fake certificates? And third, what further steps can be taken to improve accessibility and affordability, including curtailing illegitimate monetary transactions? I will set aside these questions for Mr. Aliou, Ousmane, Sall, and others. Now I'll move to Madam Suzanne Aho. The floor is yours, Madam. Is Suzanne there?
Bonjour, je suis en ligne. Tout d'abord, je voudrais vous
Hello,
remercier.
yes, I'm here. So first of all, I would like to thank everyone, and the registration, the birth registration is only the first step. Talking about it is just the first step. We should always talk about it. And I want to thank someone who really advocated for this issue.
Excusez-moi, est-ce que vous pouvez mettre votre vidéo?
Vous voulez me voir?
Oui, c'est ça, parce qu'on ne peut pas vous mettre en
Can you please turn your webcam on?
Je le fais.
Okay, let me do this.
C'est bon? Vous me voyez là?
Can you see me now?
C'est bon là? Non.
Non, mais c'est pas grave, continuez.
Attendez, là, vous me voyez.
Can you see me now?
Oui, c'est bon. OK, super. Merci
Voilà,
beaucoup.
merci. Oui, voilà. Donc,
Okay.
je voudrais vraiment remercier.
So I was saying that I want to thank the speaker, and I live this situation, and I fought to help those people for over the past decade. And the question you rose were really relevant. So it is true, we should, since the 20th of November, there are articles that are supposed to protect children's. We shouldn't, it is not possible to leave children's unregistered. because children who are not registered cannot access basic human rights. So it is an issue, and there is an African chart which was also supposed to help, and the Article 6 highlights this issue. And 10th of August is also a day that was dedicated to this issue. And what we see so far is that all state members in Africa talk about this issue in their laws, in their regulations. But when you go to the town hall, you sometimes face people, some of the staff are not trained properly. They don't know those laws. And coming back to the issue of the costs, so it should be also possible to declare a birth, register a birth within 45 days. And once those 45 days are gone, it's way more difficult to register a birth. And civil servants also ask more money to those families who are already struggling. I don't understand why we don't register birth as soon as they were born. Every children should have right to a name and a surname. And unfortunately, populations don't know the procedures they should follow. In West Africa, we talk about there are a lot of taxi moto. People travel, they hop on a taxi to go to the hospital, but it costs money to do so. And it costs money to go to the town hall too. It means that politicians don't act efficiently, and populations are not involved. Some women don't even know the name of their children's father. If they ask them what's the father's name, they just answer dad. So it means that we should raise awareness. And fathers should also give their ID to their wives. And the first thing to do is that people should explain women, if you don't know the father's name, we won't be able to deliver you a birth certificate. So you should know the father's name. You should have an ID. For instance, his driving license, or if he has one, or his birth certification, if the father has one himself. We should always talk about this issue. But when we organize seminars, webinars, and so forth, we talked to people who know this issue. And in reality, we should talk to people who don't know how the system works. Poor people, people living in poverty. We should go to mosques. We should go on the streets we should go to the local food market where real people go. And we should also give those people who ask for an appointment a clear appointment. We should tell them, come back tomorrow at 3, for instance. Instead of doing that, we tell them, okay, come back in 3 weeks, after 3 weeks. But those people who live in poverty don't even know how long 3 weeks are. So it's crucial that when we write a birth certificate, we should get a photocopy of each birth certificate. And we should explain those children that this is an important document. But we, politicians, we know the rules and legislation, but we don't apply them. So coming back to Senegal, for instance, there is a law dating from 2022 that refers to nationality. It's another issue. How can we get a nationality if we don't have a birth certificate? So it would really be essential that all children could get a birth certificate. And earlier, someone said that 75% of Senegalese children got a birth certificate. It's not exactly that. They got declared, but it doesn't mean that those 75% of children did receive a birth certificate. So it is, we should make it free. If someone is able to come and take and receive this birth certificate, then he will be able or she will be able to receive other documents. But it's a very complicated situation. That was me. Thank you very much. I will now give the floor and I will answer your questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, for bringing this perspective to our attention. You raised a lot of points, very, very important points. So let me pick.
Bhaskar, can you start your video, please?
Yeah. Yeah. So Suzanne, you raised a lot of very, very important points. So let me pick a couple of them. You rightly mentioned that birth registration is the first step, and we should always talk about it unless we reach 100% birth registration. 77% birth registration is coming from 2023 DHS. And of course, there is a gap between registration and certification that we will discuss subsequently. You also highlighted the gaps, and I really like the challenges that you mentioned for late and delayed registration. That's why it's very important that all registrations should be done within 45 days. And then community engagement, awareness, these are extremely important. Affordability needs to be handled, like both direct costs, indirect costs, and then we need to be sensitive to the needs of poor people. So I really liked your idea of reaching out to places where they reside. Finally, it's also important to explain the importance of a birth certificate to children because after all, they are going to be benefited from it. So with this, I will invite Mr. Aliou Ousmane Sall. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. And you heard Dione, you heard Madam Suzanne, and you are the best person to address these questions. And you can also tell us what steps the government of Senegal has been taking to address these issues. Over to you, sir.
Bonjour.
Hello.
Permettez-moi.
Allow me.
Bonjour, Bhaskar. Bonjour, chers participants.
Bon, excusez-moi, est-ce que vous pouvez
Hello
mettre
to.
votre vidéo?
Can you put on your video, please?
C'est bon? Je voudrais partager une présentation.
I'd like to share a presentation. Is this possible?
Oui, en principe, vous pouvez partager votre
Yeah,
écran.
you should be able to do it.
Voilà, permettez-moi.
So allow me.
Just to understand.
Is your share button active, Mr. Sall?
What? Translate?
Yeah, all right. Something is coming. Yeah, something is coming. All right. Yeah.
I am here. C'est bon?
Is it okay? Yeah.
Oui, c'est bon. Merci beaucoup.
Maybe put it on full screen.
C'est bon, c'est full. Oui, attendez, je vois. Full screen. Je pense que je l'ai mis en... Attendez.
Oh, c'est pas grave, vous pouvez continuer. On peut voir.
Just get on.
Euh,
We can read.
Ah oui, attendez, ouais, attendez, je comprends. C'est ici.
Oh, I understand now. This is it.
C'est parti de là. Vous voyez maintenant?
Do you see
Oui, c'est
now?
très bien. Merci beaucoup.
Yeah, it's very
Voilà,
fine.
juste vous partagez quelques informations
So
sur
a few
les
information,
des uns
and
et
then
des autres.
I'll
Je pense que les statistiques ont
present
été évoquées
the
concernant
stakes.
l'enregistrement des faits d'état civil au
Statistics were
Sénégal.
presented already.
Nous sommes au niveau
We are
national à
at the national
81,2%.
level at 81%,
En revanche, comme ils disent, il y a certains faits d'état civil qui ne
but
connaissent pas l'enregistrement selon les régions. Par exemple,
it
dans
depends on the
le
regions.
nous avons
In the south,
des
for
mariages
instance,
non déclarés qui sont faits.
we have
Cela
marriages
est
which
valable
are
sur
not
tout le
declared.
territoire. Le fait important que
So
qu'on
what
peut
is
évoquer, c'est
important
quelques
is
contraintes au niveau de la gouvernance avec la multiplicité des acteurs,
the
mais aussi
mixity
des
of
brèves répétitions qui
stakeholders
ont beaucoup impacté
and
sur
many
l'enregistrement des faits d'état
strides
civil.
which impacted on
Pour information, l'enregistrement
civil
au Sénégal est en
state.
45 jours.
In Senegal, it's not
C'est
45 days, it's
pendant
1 year.
12 mois,
During 1
l'enregistrement est
year,
gratuit. 45 jours, c'est
bus
avant les
registration
au-delà de
is
45
free.
jours, c'est encore gratuit.
It's still free
Donc,
after
c'est
45
tardif,
days.
mais c'est gratuit.
Well,
Donc, il n'y a
it's
pas
late, but it's still
à
free.
payer.
So you don't have to pay any
Ça, je pense
price.
que c'est important
And I think it's important to
à
mention,
préciser, parce que j'ai entendu certains dire que
because
c'est
I
45
heard
jours.
some
L'enregistrement
people
concerne
say
les
it is
acteurs
45
de
days.
droit.
But according to the law,
C'est pendant une année.
registration is free during a full year. And when you
Vous avez
come
aussi bien le
to the
fichier,
administration office,
mais aussi
you've got,
vous pouvez avoir des extraits. Et ça aussi, c'est
you
gratuit.
can receive
Donc,
abstracts, and that is free as well.
important de comprendre
So
au niveau de
it's
l'Afrique,
important to
le Sénégal
understand
est un
that
pays où, en termes de
Senegal is one of the countries in Africa
on n'est pas-
where
on a fait
the
des efforts quand même
situation is,
consistants.
we made many
Devant d'autres
efforts,
pays
consistent
pour ces
efforts
quelques mois.
to have
Donc,
it
nous, au
free.
Sénégal, l'enregistrement à la naissance, c'est gratuit
So
pendant une année.
registration at birth is free for
Ça,
1
c'est
year.
important.
This is
Et l'autre
important.
élément, en termes de
Another
fraude,
element
il y a
is
qu'il y a des numéros qui ont été
someone
affectés
told
à
about
l'identification.
document fraud,
Ce cas de
that,
fait existe aussi, mais il
well,
faut
we
comprendre
sometimes
qu'il
have
y a
a
certains,
number
durant l'enregistrement de l'enfant, il passe par
attributed to
des
someone else,
facilitateurs au lieu d'aller dans le centre
but
d'état civil.
sometimes
Faire
birth
l'enregistrement.
registration goes through
La
facilitators
responsabilité
instead of being
civile
done
pour l'enregistrement d'état
directly.
civil, souvent, les
And
parents
often parents
par négligence,
are
c'est
negligent,
quelqu'un qui a son sac qui se nomme monsieur
and
agent état civil, qui donne, et souvent qui donne des faux actes d'état civil.
there are people giving false birth certificates, and the person who declared the child think they've got a good birth certificate.
La personne vient au niveau du centre,
But then the person
le vrai numéro qui se trouve dans le registre,
comes to the center and finds the right number and think the number's been sold. There are people who
les
confessed.
parents sont responsables parce qu'ils ne sont pas allés au niveau du centre
Oh,
pour enregistrer.
they didn't go to the center to register, but they think they have a right number. This is reality, and we fight it.
Il y a l'Agence nationale d'état civil qui est en charge de l'état civil,
So
mais aussi la DAF qui gère les cartes
we
d'identité.
work with a number of partners and institutions
C'est 1,72%
in order to
des
get
cartes d'identité qui sont rejetées pour motif de faux actes d'état civil.
statistics, and there are false birth certificates.
On cherche à avoir
And when that is the case, we try and see the origin of the problem, and we take a look at the register, and that is the proof and evidence. And the right number is in the register, and that's the one who's being considered at the level of the administration. So as you say, they are often false, but the major part, and that should be taken into consideration, is that the parents are going through facilitators. You gave birth to your child, you spend money to celebrate the birth, but then you don't have any money to register your child. And that is a reality we meet also in Senegal. And this is why we make it important to raise awareness. I heard that the civil state would promote rich people instead of poor people. That's not a reality in Senegal. When you come to the civil state administration, you are being considered as everyone else. But there are strikes, and that impacts users. We also opted for dematerialization of the civic state. So that is a loss of time. Senegalese would wait for the last minute, and then if strikes are happening at the same time, it just impacts the registration. Well, when there is fraud, there is undue behaviors. But when we know about it, we would facilitate. But if you ask something, if you ask your birth certificate, you will get it. It's available. There are problems. There are millions of inhabitants, but we created 5 centers for civil state. There is another element. The political will for reinforcing the system. That's the ANEC was created in terms of means and human means, human resources, but also financial resources for taking care of those civil affairs. As you know, in Senegal, did not dispose of strategy for civil state. Well, there were even NGOs doing civil registration, and they did not master it. There were apps in one town, another app in another town, and there were partnerships in matter of identity. But this is a matter which is really sensible, so we put all partners together so that to have a national strategy. We are there for all people, including strangers, foreigners born in Senegal. Even if the act of civil birth does not give the right to the national identity, but we make it sure that they are being registered. And our mission is to improve birth certification. And the budget is elaborated and validated. And this is quite atypical. But we set up this with the African Union, well, with Europe for financing. But Cervez is all stakeholders of the civil society of health, justice, vital statistics, finances, all key stakeholders of the systems, included mayors, are being associated to the setting up of this strategy, of this national strategy that federates, but bringing solution according to problems so that children can be registered. Also for adults, we visited all centers to have a reference in terms of accessibility of staff working there. Are they qualified? What is their salary? Because some of them would fraud in Senegal. So we opted for dematerialization of the birth certification to ensure it. So in the Code of Families, there weren't any elements allowing for managing dematerialization. So we introduced it through a law proposal that has been validated. It just remains a final validation to be done at the level of the ministers in the assembly. We also have judges. When you don't have an identity, it's up to the justice to statute on the status of the person at the level to create an harmony, because civil state is a job to reinforce access of populations to civil state. We opted for setting up an accelerated process. We created a national center to facilitate access. So there are, well, you've got a document in 3, and one part is at the level of justice, one part is for the family, and one of them is for the administration. And that enables to keep copies of birth certificates. We also have for vulnerable families, to not talk about poor people. We restored a number of registers in a framework of a program financed by the European Union. The financing could not cover all centers. Archiving is difficult. There are registers who are being burnt or deteriorated with time. So 80 centers out of 600 in Senegal were called. So archiving is also a job in itself, a skill in itself. And we called them so that archiving would be renovated and classification would happen. This was one of the major activities in order to secure civil state. So the major problem we met once we had exploited this mapping is that people in the towns did not master civil
Des
state
le maire vient avec
registration.
qu'il amène, il part avec le personnel. Donc,
Well, a
c'est
mayor
des
would
petits
come in with his staff and
vraiment
go
qui n'est pas
out
suffisant
with the
comme
staff as well, taking out
Quand vous êtes
staff.
présent au maire,
So
la
when you go to the
priorité,
mayor,
la santé,
priorities
l'éducation,
health,
mais,
education,
la
but
la formation était
information
vraiment une activité majeure
was
pour
is a
impacter
major activity
positivement
too to
la capacité
positively
citoyenne.
impact
C'est pourquoi nous
civil
avons
state
mis en
in
place
daily
un
life.
programme
That's
qui
why
former
we put
2800
out
agents sur
a
l'état civil.
strategy
Les agents qui élaborent
enabling
l'acte,
us
comment on
to
élabore l'acte,
train
comment écrire l'acte,
thousands
comment
of
porter l'acte.
staff
Tous ces
how to
agents-là,
write the
ils ne
certification.
comprenaient pas certains. Donc, il y avait des niveaux vraiment
Some of them did not understand how to do.
impactés négativement
So
par
those
l'élaboration.
elements impacted
Nous avons aussi formé
negatively
les officiers,
how
parce que c'est
the
eux qui sont
Certification Act was
juridiquement responsables de l'élaboration des
written.
actes.
We
Ceux qui
also
signent, soit les
built,
officiers ou les officiers
trained
délégués.
a number of
Nous
offices.
avons formé 631 officiers et 631 personnes prédisposées à l'archivage. Et pour aller plus vite,
And
on
to
a
go
aussi mis en
faster,
place une plateforme
we put up a platform,
d'auto-formation
set
en
up
français et
platform
en langue
of
locale qui permet aux
self-training
gens
in French,
de
but
pouvoir regarder
also
des capsules vidéo,
in
de
local
voir comment
languages,
on accueille les personnels,
so that they can
comment des
see
capsules sur
in
BlackBerry,
video how to welcome
comment
people,
rechercher les actes,
how to
comment
search
élaborer les actes,
for
comment
a
délivrer
birth
les actes,
certificate, how to
comment
write
conserver
it,
les actes.
how to
Tout c'est
deliver
avec
it,
des
how
capsules
to
pour
keep it.
les agents des juridictions. Donc, il y a une stratégie qu'on a fait au niveau
So
de
there is a
formation, former le
strategy
personnel
at the level
et
of
les
the
former. Donc,
department
ça a
to
beaucoup
train
impacté.
staff.
Aujourd'hui,
So
il y a
it
eu beaucoup de
impacted,
richesses
and
qui ne
many
connaissaient pas
now
ce que disait vraiment la
many
loi
did not know it,
au sens
did
réel
not
et réel
know
par rapport
the
à certaines
law.
dispositions juridiques. Il nous arrive d'élaborer un acte et que les
And
chancelleries,
sometimes they
que ce soit
would
l'ambassade
write
France
down
ou bien
an
les autres
act,
ambassades, rejettent l'acte parce
and
qu'il y a
embassies
des
would
problèmes
reject it because of
d'illicibilité. Donc, pour
legal
vous dire que
problems in the
nous
way
avons
it was written
formé
down. So we
tous ces
trained
gens-là sur les métiers de l'état civil. Donc, je vais
many
revenir un peu sur la
to
formation.
that
Il y a aussi la
employment of
reconstruction de
civil
l'édifice
state.
complètement détérioré.
And we
On a
also
vu ça
restored
à Diourbel, Mbao.
a number of
Tout ça a
documents
été complètement
that had
réinstallé
been
et vice-versa.
deteriorated,
Toujours dans le cadre de
burned
l'enracinement
down,
social.
or
C'est bien
others.
pour les pauvres que vous dites. Vous savez, il y a beaucoup de paramètres qui ne sont
Mainly
pas
for the
pris en
poor
compte.
people, there are many
Suzanne dit tout à l'heure,
parameters that are not
Sène,
being
de Diout,
taken
l'état
into
civil.
consideration.
Nous, au Sénégal, ça fait 2 ans.
In
On
Senegal,
a élaboré
we've
la semaine
been
internationale de l'état
elaborating
civil. Pendant une
since 2
semaine,
years
on
a
faisait des
week,
caravanes dans
1
tous les
week
pays
of
pour
civil
sensibiliser les populations sur
state
l'importance
to
de
raise
l'enracinement
awareness
à l'état civil pour
of
avoir
the
une identité
population
légale,
of
pour bénéficier
having a
des
legal
droits,
identity
aussi
for
les
benefiting of
devoirs
rights.
que la personne doit vraiment avoir. Et la caravane traverse presque
And
toutes
the
les régions.
caravan goes through
Et aussi, nous avons mis
quite a
en
lot
place
of
un
regions.
argumentaire
We also
juridique. Parce
set up
qu'on a constaté au Sénégal que
well, we
au niveau de
saw in Senegal
l'Église, presque c'est
the
réglé
church,
pour l'enregistrement. Mais au niveau des religieux musulmans,
the
c'est eux qui célèbrent les
Muslim
mariages, c'est
are
eux qui baptisent
celebrating
les naissances.
marriages,
Il
are
fallait un
baptizing.
argumentaire religieux. Ce que nous avons
So
fait
we needed
en
to
instituant
raise the
des
awareness
religieux des
among
14
them.
régions, les chefs
And
religieux.
we gathered
Récemment, il y a
religious
3
people from
mois, on a
14
validé
regions,
l'argumentaire
and we
en
validated
l'inspirant
document
des enseignements du prophète.
3
Parce que c'est
to
eux, c'est leur
them.
métier. Il faut qu'ils comprennent
It's
pour
their
faire
job.
vivre
They
le
should
pour sensibiliser les gens.
understand.
On appuie sur tous les leviers,
So we
y compris des
really
affichages médiatiques et des affichages
enforce all leverages,
des affichages
also
au
public
niveau des réseaux sociaux.
campaigning,
Tout ça comme outil de communication,
le
de
social media
sensibilisation à
for
l'ensemble des
raising
populations.
awareness,
Pour aller vite,
for
juste quelques
being
images
registered.
de cette
Just a
14e
few
édition que
images.
nous avons
This is last
réalisée
edition
à Ziguinchor,
that we
parce qu'on veut intervenir aussi.
did
Vous avez vu
in
les communautés d'éleveurs, souvent, qui ne prennent pas en
at the
considération
level of the
l'éthique de la
communities.
Un éleveur qui suit les troupeaux ignore les
Or
périmètres
they
des
are
communes parce que
people
ce qui est important de comprendre
traveling from one commune to the other.
au-delà ce que dit la loi. Parce que
Well,
la
what
loi dit que
does the
tout
law
activité
say?
fait d'état civil parvenue dans une commune doit être enregistré dans
If,
cette commune-là.
well,
Et eux
any
qui suivent les
act
troupeaux, les pâturages, ignorent ça. Donc,
according
il faut
to
les sensibiliser
related
pour
to
qu'ils
civil
puissent prendre
state
en
should be
considération
registered in the commune it took place in.
l'investissement
But the people
prévention.
going from one place to the other
Pendant une
with
semaine,
their
la sensibilisation joue un rôle.
animals
L'élément
don't
important
know
pour nous,
about
c'est
it.
la dématérialisation.
So
On a
what is
évoqué
important to us
aujourd'hui
is
qu'on gagne du temps.
dematerialization. It
Première
avoids
intervention de la dame,
loss
c'est
of
une
time.
d'équité.
Mr.
It's
Sall,
a question of
Oui.
equity.
Mr. Sall, I'm sorry, I don't
Mr.
want
Farr,
to interrupt between your excellent presentation. Could you please conclude this in, say, next 2 minutes so that we have enough time for question and answers? Thanks.
Oui, il reste juste quelques, c'est pas beaucoup.
Yes, I only have a few slides left. So we opted for dematerialization for equity and for accessibility. So we digitalized 20 millions of civil certificates and we centralized all data and we trained 1,200 officers to use this application. So there are no poor or rich people because it's enough to have access to the civil state. So we now have 3 options: having the certificate delivered in the same center, or requesting one center and receiving it in another center, or totally dematerialized request. This is being used in 400 communes, but this is also a platform for the users. It enables them to get, to ask and to receive. Whether you're poor or rich, you do have access from your platform. This is being used between different systems and it's nearly finished. So we did a lot of efforts to have Senegalese people being visible at the level of the civil state. So this is questions that we are dealing with at the daily level. And we just need now to launch the platform to democratize access to civil state. This is valid. We also work with the Ministry of Education, which enabled us to identify children with their pupils without any civil state, and so that pupils would get a legal identity. So even those in regions that are further away. So we affirm our will to consolidate what we have and try and finance. This is it, Bashar, what I wanted to share.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This was a very insightful presentation, and in the process, you tried to address a lot of questions that come from Dione and Suzanne. Thank you again for clarifying that registration and certification is free until 1 year of age. And thank you for enumerating all steps that the government of Senegal is doing to improve accessibility, affordability, also for highlighting legal reforms, and in particular, your modernization efforts. I like the 3 options for getting a certificate, and also your weekly idea of, like creating awareness through churches and religious leaders. But the message is that a lot more needs to be done in terms of sensitizing both the demand side actors as well as the supply side actors. So with this, we will transition to segment 2. In this segment, we will begin with Mr. Edouard Sène, the mayor of Ndondol municipality, who will discuss the steps taken to modernize the civil registry in his municipality. This will be followed by Yehualashet Mekonen, director of the African Child Observatory program at the African Child Policy Forum, who will speak on CSO's perspective regarding what is happening at grassroots level in Africa and what are some good practices Senegal could borrow. Next, we will have 2 young children, Ibrahima and Aicha, who will share their experiences. With that, I would like to pass the baton to Mr. Edouard Sène. Over to you, sir.
Bonjour, je crois que vous m'entendez.
Hello, I think you can hear me.
C'est bon.
C'est bon, ok, d'accord. Donc, merci beaucoup pour
Thank you for inviting me today. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to discuss this issue, legal identity, and especially in the third world, in less developed countries, where it is a societal issue, and it is an issue that is being addressed by authorities. Thank you. I would like to thank Aliou for his interesting speech. It allowed us to understand the situation and understand the dynamics behind this, the problem of access to legal identity for children in Senegal. So another speaker, a lady, two ladies actually, said something that I found interesting. But coming back to what we do in Ndondol, so just to begin, Ndondol is a small municipality of Diourbel in central Senegal. It is a roughly 100 square kilometers area, and there are about 20,000 inhabitants who live there in 16 villages. So I am the mayor of this city. I've been the mayor of this city since 3 years. And this subject, access to legal identity, has been one of the main subjects I addressed, because it is a gateway right. So we try to raise awareness so that people in the public administration could really help and assist the population. It is the municipality's, the town hall's responsibility to help anyone access birth registration. So one of the speakers mentioned the fact that people waste a lot of time in the process when they ask for birth registration. So I made a personal point to allow anyone to get an answer within 1 day. Someone comes to the town hall, asks for a birth certification, and within 15 to 20 minutes, this person will receive a birth certification. And we do the same with weddings and with death certifications. So we ask people who get married, when do they want to receive their wedding certification? And we also set steady days, so on Monday and on Friday, for instance, to make sure that weddings will be registered. We also proceed this way with death certificates. And it is true that we can find different informations when it comes to the delay, but we can get a birth certification after 12 months, after a full year. And it is only after this period that people will struggle more. And we think that 1 year is enough to register a children. It is true that there are issues with people who don't declare their children's birth, and there are parents who don't have a birth certificate themselves, even at the age of 50. For the new generations, it is problematic because when those children want to enroll in schools, it can be an issue. So we try to do everything we can to give access to birth certification to all those pupils who don't have one. And we also want to make people's life easy, especially when people lost a document, a legal, an ID. Because, like we said today, like we said earlier, documents are not being archived properly, and it can be an issue later on. So one of the solutions we found could be to digitalize documents, to scan documents. And I think it's important that the Senegalese state keeps proceeds with this solution, so that people would access easily those data, those scanned documents, those proof of identity. So we should really make it our priority in Senegal. And that's why I, as a mayor, do everything I can, because I think that it's not enough to give funds to the state, because the state is something bigger than villages and small towns, and we want to help people in their daily life. So we need to reorganize our procedures to make sure any citizen can easily access their rights. And we tried our best to improve the current situation. But it is true that we need to raise civil servant salaries and train them. And what we tried to do so far to regularize those children who weren't registered, well, we organize meetings with judges every year to make sure that we can help those pupils, those children who go to school but don't have a birth certificate. And we try to apply the same logic with people who get married when they need a wedding certificate, or with people who need a death certificate. So it is one of our main preoccupations. And as I said, we really want to archive documents, because we realize that it is very important for people to be able to access to their documents years later.
Sorry, Mr. Sène. Sorry, Mr. Sène, could you conclude in 1 minute, please?
Donc, merci beaucoup en tout cas.
Yes, so just to conclude, thank you very much for inviting me today. It was a pleasure to share my...
en train de faire au niveau de la commune de Ndondol, en espérant vivement que l'État prenne à bras le corps cette problématique et en réglant définitivement la question de l'état civil par la finalisation de la politique de numérisation. Et je pense que c'est hyper important. Et peut-être un point sur lequel je vais terminer, il faudrait qu'on essaie de... Parce qu'aujourd'hui également, il y a énormément, au niveau surtout des élèves, qui sont déjà
Today, there are a lot of students where there are a lot of students and pupils who are registered, but we think that they are too old to pass an exam. So it creates a lot of issues on the administrative level. So that's why I wanted to say. So thank you one more.
Thank you, Mr. Edouard Sène, for the excellent work that you are doing in your municipality. And you have managed to achieve quite a lot in the past 3 years. And because of paucity of time, I'm not going into details of what you spoke, but I really like the idea of issuing a certificate within 20 minutes, and that should be a benchmark for others to follow. So with this, I would like to invite Mr. Yehualashet Mekonen to share his remarks. You have 8 minutes, sir. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Bhaskar. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm Yehualashet Mekonen from the African Child Policy Forum, a Pan-African organization for child rights and advocacy based in Addis Ababa. But first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to share my perspective of this very important topic. Before going into the details of the good practices in expanding birth registration, I would like to say a few things on where Africa stands in birth registration, which are the countries that are doing well, which are the ones that are not doing so well, and where does Senegal stand in relation to others. According to the most recently launched State of Africa's Children 2025 report, North African countries such as Algeria and Tunisia and others in the south like Botswana have achieved universal birth registration. At the bottom of the league table for Africa, my own country, Ethiopia and Somalia, have only less than 5% registration for under 5 children. Senegal is way higher than the African average, which stands at about 48%, and closer to the world average of 78%. So we can say that it's doing well, as you have rightly said earlier, Bhaskar, compared to others, but it needs to go more to achieve the universal target. From the outset, I think it's very important to recognize that notable strides have been made in birth registration in Africa over the last decades. But it's also equally important to recognize that more than half of the children in the continent have not been registered, and that there is a lot that needs to be done to realize their basic right to be registered immediately after birth, have a name, and acquire nationality in accordance with Article 7 of the Convention on the Rights of the Child and Article 6 of the African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of the Child. Now, the key question that my intervention responds to are, what are the good practices observed from champion countries such as Sierra Leone, Tanzania, and Namibia, which have made tremendous improvement over the last years? What are the lessons from the experience of these champion countries that Senegal and others could learn? The experience of these 3 champion countries help identify 3 game changers in significantly improving birth registration. These are digitalization of the system, integration of birth registration with other services such as health, and decentralization of the services. If we look at digitization, Namibia and Tanzania are among the countries with digitization of birth registration, and that has relatively advanced. Digitization was a major enabler in launching particularly electronic birth notification platforms and integrating the service with other service providers. The e-birth notification system of Namibia that nurses use to notify the national population registry system of the birth in real time. In Tanzania, the government implemented a mobile phone technology which helped midwives, community health workers, interestingly, traditional birth attendants to be birth notifiers by sending a message to central government office as a first step to start the process of registering births. The experience of Namibia and Tanzania has shown that use of technology to digitize birth registration facilitates exchange of information between different government agencies, improves efficiency, and helps overcome geographic and administrative barriers in reaching out children in marginalized communities. We heard from Mr. Sall that Senegal is also accelerating digitization and needs to be further strengthened to ensure its effectiveness in further expanding the service. When we look at the integration of birth registration with other services, Sierra Leone offers a very good example. The Memorandum of Understanding signed in 2018 between the National Civil Registration Authority and the Ministry of Health was a game changer. The Ministry of Health was mandated to register births occurring in public health facilities. With the expansion of health services across the country, the rate of birth registration also equally grew. So both the Ministry of Health and the National Civil Registration Authority expanded the number of facilities offering birth registration services across the country. As a result, Sierra Leone showed a sharp increase in birth registration from just over 50% in 2008 to about 90% now. Let's look at the decentralization of services and the significance in expanding birth registration. Tanzania decentralized birth registration by authorizing local authorities and local health facilities to register and certify births in various districts. The decentralized and integrated one-stop process simplified the registration process and allowed parents to do multiple things in just one visit to a local health facility or a community ward executive office. They were able to register births, get the child immunized, and access nutrition services and other important services in those facilities. So the impact was higher when decentralization is complemented with integration with other services and use of technology. This approach helped increase registration points, for example, in Tanzania, from just 97 in 2013 to 11,376 in 2024. It also significantly improved birth registration coverage to nearly sevenfold, from very low level of 10% in 1999 to 68% now. So Senegal and other countries can learn a lot from these proven practices that have helped in improving outreach, particularly to marginalized groups, and increase coverage. Generally, as the previous speaker have been saying, birth registration process need not be complex and time-consuming. They also should avoid fees of registration and fines or penalties of late registration. Usually costs associated to birth registration, including transport and time required get the certificates, can be prohibitive for families who are struggling to survive. That was what Madam Dione was talking about earlier. Birth registration should be free, compulsory, and that needs to also be accessible and efficient, including for late registration and situations when there are no documents. Finally, I would like to reiterate that a strong government commitment and leadership is crucial. Governments need to prioritize birth registration in national development plans and budget planning and execution. There is a need also to apply innovative and contextually relevant approaches to ensure that every child is registered, irrespective of where he or she lives or who or she is. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Yehualashet Mekonen, for highlighting effective practices from Tanzania, Namibia, and Sierra Leone. I had the privilege of working in Tanzania for 5 years before moving to UNICEF headquarters in August 2021. And I was involved in the journey of simplified birth registration system there. So thank you very much. It's time to invite Ibrahima and Aicha. Ibrahima, please introduce yourself. Over to you.
Assalamualaikum. Padre Ibrahima. I'm 16 ans. I'm 16 ans dëkk Diamaguène. Nekkoon naa di jàng ba classe CM2. Amoon naa certificat de amoon naa benn gis-gis boo
I had dream, simple dream,
continué woon sama jàng
to go on going to school,
jàng wala jàng
to learn a job,
pour dimbali samay waajur
and support my family.
mais kiiwul la mais
But this dream did not realize.
dama arrêté jàng parce que
It never did, because of a reason that does not depend on me.
mon extrait de naissance moo la
I don't have any birth certificate.
dama âgé woon
And without any birth certificate, I can't go to college. I could not enroll there.
ngir loolu mu jëmoon kon ne sama jàng
I was too old after a while to pass examinations and to get on with being at school. So I was very much impacted by this situation. It destroyed me. And today, I'm working for a bakery. I'm delivering breads in my neighborhood. I chose to work instead of being in the streets. I chose to do something of my life, even if I could not live the life I was dreaming of. My mother had other dreams for me. She wanted me to learn at school. She wanted me to be educated and have a diploma. But it did not happen because of a simple paperwork that I did not have. And I'm in great pain for this. And so is my mother. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Ibrahima. That's a very touching story. Like sending a lot of hugs your way. I have been told Isa couldn't join because he didn't want to miss school. So Sose will narrate on her behalf. Over to you, Sose.
Bonjour à tous. Je m'appelle Aminata. Je suis là aujourd'hui pour représenter Aïssa Touba.
I'm here to present.
Bonjour, je suis Aïssa Touba. J'habite à Samsam.
I'm presenting the testimony of.
J'habite à Samsam et je suis élève en classe de première S2. Je fais partie des censés.
She's a first year. I've got a birth certificate. So thanks to this certificate, I could go to school. I could grow and learn and have plans for the future. But around me, many children don't have that opportunity. Just because they don't have any paperwork, any birth certificate. So I'm revolted. How can you leave children study during years? But to prevent them to pass their examinations just for a piece of paper. I could study. Oh, I saw someone who was only 1 year away from the diploma of secondary school, but one day she couldn't come. She couldn't pass her final examination because she did not have any birth certificate. So all her dreams were down to the ground. And this is not an isolated case. Last year,
16 élèves dans notre lycée n'ont pas pu faire le bac à cause de l'absence de papier.
There were students in the secondary school who could not pass their final exam because of being undocumented. They could have gone to university, become doctors or lawyers or teachers. A child who is undocumented, his future is stolen from him or her. This is not fair. That's why I think that the state and the collectivities should really tackle that problem. There should be special campaigns for registering and facilitate processes towards the families.
All right. Thank you, Sose. We genuinely appreciate your support and thanks for your time. So now we will ask Ibrahima to ask a question to Mr. Sall. And Sose, you can ask another question to Mr. Edouard Sène. Ibrahima, you can start.
Bon naa posé monsieur Sall question. Est-ce que mën nga waxtaan ak ministre de l'éducation? Mën nañ xool liggéey ci affaire kayit yi pour limite d'âge bi. Parce que man damaa bëgg a delluwaat école. Jox kenn ku ne benn sens. Merci.
Sose, you can ask your question. Sose, you can ask your question, and then Mr. Sall and Mr. Edward can answer. Over to you, Sose.
Bon. Ma question à Monsieur Edouard Sène.
So my question to Edouard is, your country managed to register a lot of children. So what are the strategies that you put in place? And what examples could we follow to replicate your success? Thank you.
So, Mr. Sall, you can start, and then Mr. Edward can follow, but please try to be very brief because we are left with only 7 more minutes. Thank you.
Merci pour Brahim, il a parfaitement raison. Pour
Thank you.
l'état civil,
You're perfectly right.
il n'est jamais trop tard pour enregistrer.
It's never too late to register.
À n'importe quelle année de la personne,
Whatever your age, you can be registered.
On fait l'état civil. C'est pas prescrit.
There is no delay.
La sensibilisation. Il faut qu'on sensibilise les parents, comme il vient de dire.
Parents should be sensitized that a child without a birth certificate sees their future stolen, and have a child going to the final exam without being registered. This should be taken care of. And this is being done currently with the institutions taking care of education. And I'd like to congratulate Mr. Mekonen. So we're going to have a birth or death being reported directly to the civil state according to the law. So for the child to go back to school, you need an identity. So if you have not been registered and it's you older than 1 year, the judge should give you the authorization. There should be a judgment. And as soon as you've got the authorization, you can go to the civil service, and then you'll get a civil identity, get back to school. But the reality of education, this is being managed by the Minister of Education. We're working with them, and judgments sometimes are not being accepted by the schools. But as soon as the judgment has been made, it has the same legal value as a birth certificate. So we're working with administrations so that this should be restored. But in order to get back home, back to school, you just first need to get your paperwork done. You can go to the Court of Justice and get judgment so that your legal identity is being recognized. But thank you.
Mr. Sall, because the mayor has left, so could you also answer Sose's question?
Bon, pour Bambay, moi, ce que je dis, on a connecté, déployé
We
400 centres d'état civil.
set up 400 centers of civil state with the possibility of centralizing because children were losing their identity. So we took something with stakeholders, all stakeholders, and many municipalities. There are few municipalities where this cannot happen. And we also trained the staff also in the municipalities, and that helps a lot. What is important today is that when you come, you should ask for your piece of paper, that part that is yours, or the people who do not ask for that part. That's raising awareness. We raise awareness among the mayors so that the work can take place fast. If some so we see requests by the at the municipalities because of the centralized system, so we can see where the work has been done or not. There are experiences also in the other countries, and we should consolidate what we have done because we have hundreds of centers to cover Senegal, but we want also to cover Senegalese children in the other countries. That is still work to be done. But we have a notification allowing, as soon as the child is being born, that the notification is done at the center so that we can call the parents to come and register the child. There is also a will of the mayor, which is necessary because we are coordinating the centers, we facilitate the work, but the mayor is responsible in managing the staff. So the mayor should also be committed with civil state. He committed himself, or they committed themselves to facilitate the access, and that should be at the level of the state and at the level of the municipalities. So to tell you that we are impacted for better access to civil state, we're training, we're giving computers, we interconnect. So there is a will to support municipalities to go to its universal registration. And if this dynamics can go forward, we do hope to have a tool with very, very high levels of registrations.
Thank you, Mr. Sall, for your responses and for your time. So we have two questions we have 1 minute and 2 questions. So what I would do, I will request someone to read the question from Albert Kabuge, and Jagriti, we will send you the response to this one. Okay, so, sorry for that. Can someone read the question from Albert? Terry or someone, can you help?
Yes. Yes, I have a question. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, so this is a question from Blessing from Sierra Leone.
Okay, go ahead.
The question is, what has been done to accelerate birth registration in Sierra Leone for underprivileged children in this community? Thank you. And Blessing, she comes from that country. She comes from Sierra Leone. And voila, thank you so much.
So she wants to know what is happening in Sierra Leone, correct?
Yes, exactly. And okay. How and what has been done to accelerate
so
the
maybe
registration. Thank you.
Maybe Mr. Mekonen, if you could respond in half a minute, and we will send you a detailed reply. Mr. Mekonen?
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. You see, Senegal is one of the countries where significant improvements have been made, mainly because of the decentralization that's being done and integrating it with other services like health. So vulnerable communities, whether they are going for antenatal care, whether they are going for any child or maternal health, when they go to those services, then they will be able to access that birth registry. So the encouragement, perhaps the awareness that needs to be done among vulnerable communities is at least to go and visit these centers and demand those services. But the services are coming closer to those communities. They're coming to those health facilities and other on the ground. I think that's in and of itself is a good improvement, but definitely there is a lot that needs to be done to really achieve the universal coverage. Thank you so much, Bhaskar.
Thank you very much. So with this, I think it's time to conclude. So let me thank all the panelists for their very, very insightful observations, remarks, and answers. And I would also like to thank everyone involved in this process, especially the interpreters for doing excellent work. So with this, let me take the liberty of concluding this meeting. Have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bhaskar. It was an excellent sharing.
Merci, Bhaskar. Merci.
Thank you, everyone.
Merci
Thank you,
à tous.
everyone.